Others, reborn in 1979, scrambled to join the army and grab an iron rice bowl. Me? I was reborn in 1979, but I gave my enlistment quota straight to my cousin. The whole village called me a fool. My parents were so furious they snapped 3 feather dusters on me. They didn't know that in my last life, after I went off to the army, the whole family died. This life, I had only one thought. Father was sick, and only bear gall could cure him. So I wouldn't be a soldier. I'd head into the mountains to hunt a bear. Outside, snow lay knee-deep. Inside, the brick bed was blazing hot, and several uncles from the clan were chatting at the top of their lungs. Mingzi joining the army. Our Zhao family's ancestral graves are smoking green. When old Lu the Wilted from the east edge of the village heard the news, he immediately sent a matchmaker to offer his daughter to Mingzi. Forget it. Mingzi's going to be in the army. How could he marry some village girl? The smell of dry tobacco mixed with cheap liquor stung our noses, and my father, Zhao Qingji, coughed harder and harder. I lifted my head from the corner of the brick bed, dazed, staring around. Then my eyes snapped wide open. I'd been reborn. Reborn at 19, on this very day the enlistment notice arrived. In my previous life, my 4th granduncle, who worked at the County Armed Forces Department, went to great lengths to get me an enlistment quota. Everyone thought that a mud-footed peasant like me was about to defy heaven and change his fate from then on. And that was indeed the case. I enlisted without any trouble, became a crack shot in the army, and later went south to knock those disobedient little brats around. Then I was wounded and transferred to civilian work. A farmer who should have been scratching a living in the soil had landed an iron rice bowl and was eating state grain rations. In that era, it truly deserved the description, defying heaven and changing fate. But my family, after I left, fell to pieces completely. Father, unwilling to spend money, let his lung disease drag on and finally passed away. Mother, holding the family together on her own, worked herself to death. My younger sister Zhao Fong dropped out of school and married early to pay for father's treatment. Her husband's family beat and scolded her even while she was pregnant, and she died from a difficult birth. In that previous life, when I returned after being transferred to civilian work, I was already completely alone. Later I applied to be a forest ranger, silently guarding from afar my home that had no family left, and spent the greater part of my life in the mountains. Thank heavens. Seeing the whole family alive, I broke down in loud sobs. What's wrong? Did the liquor go to your head? Uncle Zhao Chengkai fumbled to wrap his arms around me. Qingji's wife. Hurry and make Mingzi a bowl of sauerkraut soup to sober him up. Everyone in the room exchanged bewildered glances, watching me pull the whole family into my arms, unable to stop my tears. Zhao Chengkai, the production brigade captain, clutched his pipe, muttering inwardly, "Surely this kid hasn't run into something unlucky?" Amid the worried words of comfort, I wiped my face and looked up. I'm not serving in the army anymore. Let my cousin Dakwai go in my place. Early the next morning, Uncle Zhao Chengkai led Aunt and my cousin Zhao Kuei to our house, their arms full of gifts. Women can never hide what's on their minds. My mother Lu Tsuolan and Aunt slipped aside to wipe away tears. The 2 brothers Zhao Chengkai and Zhao Qingji sat on the kong, puffing on their pipes. Zhao Kuei was 20 that year, joy written all over his face, yet he insisted on putting on a mature air to console me. My older sister and younger brother huddled in the corner, unusually quiet. Kids are sharp, you know. Who would dare make a fuss at a time like this? A beating is certain. After everyone dispersed last night, I got a beating that nearly broke the feather duster apart. Uncle, don't try to talk me out of it. It has to be my brother Dahui who joins the army. Being a soldier means taking orders, and I can't stand that. Besides, with my dad in this condition, I couldn't leave in good conscience. Last night our house was in an uproar until the wee hours. My parents took turns, hitting me, scolding me, but I simply wouldn't budge. Uncle, puffing on his pipe, asked me, "Mingzi, if your brother goes to be a soldier, what will you do?" What can you do? A farmer naturally works the land. But I tossed out a plan I had long since worked out. I'll go into the deep woods and hunt wild animals. You're the wild animal. Mother Lu Tsuolan couldn't hold herself back. She grabbed a broom and swung, and all hell broke loose. Father, coughing endlessly, reddened around the eyes. He was the one dragging the child down. He had a lung disease, but there was a way to cure it. The village doctor, who had practiced medicine in these parts for 40 years, wrote a prescription. The other ingredients were easy enough to get, but the one key element was bear gall. A bear gall cost 300 or 400 yuan, and with all the miscellaneous expenses, curing my father's illness would take at least 450. Even then, He wouldn't be able to do heavy labor. When Zhao Qingji heard that even if cured, he'd be half a cripple, he refused treatment. This was the rural Northeast in 1979, where 100 or so yuan could get you a wife and was already considered a real show of face. Not to mention having spare money. Every family was counting rice before cooking. In those days, not starving was the best most people could hope for. So Zhao Qingji's refusal to treat his illness was hardly surprising. Even decades later, were there any fewer people giving up on treatment because they had no money? Zhao Qingji knew full well that his son had refused to join the army and insisted on going into the mountains as a hunter precisely for the bear gall. But was a bear gall that easy to get? Once you entered the old forest, you really couldn't say who was the prey and who was the hunter. I was dead set on it. No matter how they beat or cursed at me, I wouldn't change my mind. In the end, the army slot went to Zhao Kuei. The eldest uncle's family compensated us with 100 jin of millet, 150 jin of corn, and 50 yuan, things originally saved for Zhao Kuei's marriage. This time, even the production team leader had completely emptied the family coffers. The household was shrouded in gloom, but I was the only one grinning foolishly. In this life, I must take good care of the whole family. I've thought it over. I can't let father's illness drag on like it did in my previous life. To cure him, I still have to go into the mountains and hunt bears. In winter, bears find tree hollows or caves to hibernate, which is called squatting in the den. Hunting such a bear is called opening the den. Bears are easiest to hunt at this time. Anyone would have their combat ability drop sharply when half asleep. The key is, you have to be able to find where the bear is hibernating. In my previous life, I left home after the spring thaw. I clearly remember that Li Hairlip from the neighboring village went into the mountains and ran into a black bear that had just woken up from its tree hollow. When they found him, all that was left were tattered pieces of his padded jacket and a pair of cotton wool boots. That bear wasn't killed either. It ran deep into the mountains. Knowing the bear's approximate location, I, who spent half my life as a forest ranger, can definitely find it. The son was dead set on making a living by patrolling the mountains and hunting, and Zhao Qingji and his wife couldn't persuade him otherwise. They could only trade 50 caddies of corn kernels for a single-shot rifle. These crude, handmade shotguns vary wildly in quality and power. The break-open one that landed in my hands was pretty damn good. Its barrel came from a Mosin Nagant from Big Brother. 7.62 caliber, with all the other parts hand-fitted by workers. It was well taken care of. I couldn't find a single thing wrong with it. The family that traded for the corn gave me a pack of bullets along with it, 50-odd rounds. When I tested it out in the field, I grinned so wide it hurt. This thing was a winner. Now that I had a proper weapon, I didn't want to wait. The very next day after testing, I wanted to head into the mountains. My mother, Lu Solan, packed me some multi-grain steamed buns and a jar of oil-glazed pickled turnips, admonishing me over and over. Just walk around the edge of the forest, pick up whatever you can, and don't you dare go into the deep woods. I agreed readily, then went straight to meet my two childhood friends, heading toward where I remembered the bear that had eaten Li Huazi denning for winter. If we didn't go into the deep woods, how could we hunt a bear? Mingzi, over here. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua were stamping their feet at the east edge of the village, calling me over. Coming, I answered, quickening my pace. The three of us had grown up together since we were kids, got along well, and were closer than blood brothers. In my previous life, after I joined the army and left, all the major and minor affairs of the Zhao family were helped by these two brothers. When Zhao Qingji and Lu Zulan were buried, they busied themselves from start to finish, more dependable than real sons. But in this era, everyone was too poor, and there were many things they wanted to help with but couldn't. All they could say was, it was fate. Tang Dahu was tall and strong, carrying a large basket with quite a lot of stuff, an axe, knives, rope, and such. Lu Xiaohua was a bit slender, and also carried a basket with some lighter items. The two brothers looked at the rifle on my back with envy in their eyes. What young man doesn't covet a gun? Mingzi, what are we hunting in the mountains? Bear. Yeah. The three of us went into the mountains laughing and joking, walking until dusk. After entering the mountains, the snow was even thicker, but the temperature of 20 or 30 degrees below zero turned the surface of the snow into a hard crust. Not only could people walk on it without issue, even a loaded horse-drawn cart could run on it. When the sun went down, the temperature plummeted. In the deep forest at night with temperatures 30 below zero, one lapse could cost you your life. I picked a wind-sheltered spot and called the two brothers over to set up camp. We dug out a snow shelter. Tang Dahu dragged back a dead tree, and once a fire was kindled at the entrance, a little warmth crept into the hollow. We roasted coarse grain buns over the flames, stuffed them with pickled rutabaga, and each bite was crisp and delicious. Young fellows together never run out of things to talk about. After eating and drinking our fill, the three of us squeezed into the snow shelter and whispered, sizing up the village's young maidens and young wives one by one. This one was quick and hardworking. That one had a graceful figure and a pretty face. In short, in the eyes of 18 or 19-year-old lads, there wasn't a single plain-looking woman in the village. I fell into a dazed sleep while Lu Xiaohua was going on about how Miao Dia from the neighboring village had smiled at him. My padded coat was thick, and my boots were cotton-wadded, so staying the night in the snow shelter didn't feel cold at all. After waking up and eating our fill, the three of us headed straight for the place I remembered where a black bear was denning for the winter. The old forests of the northeast never lacked wild game, but these vast mountains stretched for 1,000 kilometers or more, and deliberately searching out a bear denning in a hollow was even harder. Fortunately, I knew where to look. After the better part of half a day, we spotted a dead old poplar tree. The tree hollow was covered in white frost. Having been a forest ranger for half my life, I knew at a glance that the black bear that had been terrorizing Li Huozi from the neighboring village was inside. There were rules to hunting a denayed bear. The most valuable thing on a bear was its gall, but the quality of the gall was never fixed. To get a top-quality, high-value gall, you had to make the black bear angry. Anger brews gall. The angrier the bear, the higher the quality. A hibernating bear shot dead without knowing what hit it would yield at best a grass gall, worthless. I needed the bear gall to cure my father, and a grass gall's potency definitely wouldn't be strong enough. But if I roused the denayed bear and let it throw a tantrum in its sleepy grumpiness, the three of us would be in danger. Wild animals have incredibly strong vitality, and a black bear, a creature of several hundred pounds with thick skin and tough flesh, is even more troublesome. If a single shot doesn't hit its head, the safety of the three of us is not guaranteed. Legend has it that the crescent-shaped white fur on a black bear's chest is its vital spot. That's true, but even if shot in the crescent, a normal bear can still live for dozens of seconds. If you're far away, it doesn't matter. If you're close, 10 seconds is enough for a black bear to tear an adult to shreds. So when opening the den, we had to shoot at its head. I cut 2 pine poles as thick as calves, removed the branches, and sharpened one end. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua each took one. When the bear hibernating in the den poked its head out, the two of them, one on each side, would use the pine poles to pin down the bear's head, and I'd shoot it in the head. Job done. Although Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua had been full of bravado when we set out, now that the moment actually came, they were both uneasy. This was a goddamn black bear, a beast that could send a grown man flying with one swipe. If anything went wrong, the three of us together would become that thing's stored food in the tree den. Mingzi, make sure you aim. Lu Xiaohua's face was pale, whether from the cold or from fear, it was hard to tell. You're the coward, don't give me that bullshit. Mingzi, let's go kick its damn ass. Tang Dahu glared, panting hard, and still had to keep his voice low. Lu Xiaohua was instantly anxious. Tang Dahu, you dumbass. You're the coward. I quickly waved my hands to make the two brothers shut up. Though this little racket wouldn't wake a bear denayed up in its cave. What if? The three of US brothers get ready. Open the den. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua took positions on either side, holding pine poles and staring fixedly at the tree hole. I lit a string of small firecrackers and threw it in, crackling and popping. The black bear, who had been dreaming of happily playing with the she-bear, immediately let out an angry roar. I stepped back a few paces, raised my Mosin-Nagant converted break action, and my pupils nearly shrank to pinpricks. With a few roars, the big furry black bear's head poked out of the tree hole. Tang Dahu yelled, and together with Lu Xiaohua, mustering all their strength, they jammed the 2 pine poles directly beneath the bear's head. Next pinned. Bang. The gunshot was crisp and clean, no hesitation. The shooting skill and composure from my previous life were still with me. The bullet from my break-action rifle went straight into the black bear's right eye. The 7.62 millimeters bullet went through the black bear's skull and flew out the back of its head. Scatter! I called. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua let go of the poles and ran for it. As arranged, the neck-pinning duo each grabbed the axes left on the ground. With a few crackling sounds, the bear, shot in the head the moment it woke, shattered the poplar tree den, and came straight out of the hole, then lay motionless on the snow. Ha ha ha, fantastic. Tang Dahu, still holding his axe, threw his head back and laughed, but his legs couldn't stop trembling. Lu Xiaohua collapsed onto his butt in the snow, his expression a mix of crying and laughing. The roars the bear let loose before charging out had made his guts churn and his heart race. Hell, a beast is a beast. I also let out a long sigh of relief. What luck! Both my childhood friends had held their nerve and nothing went wrong. For the three of us to go into the mountains for the first time and bag a bear outright, it would be a lie to say we weren't scared stiff. Only then did my heart settle back into place, but it was still pounding hard. This black bear had to weigh 500 or 600 pounds, lying there in the snow like a small mountain. I whipped out my knife, quickly split open the belly, and removed the gallbladder. I tied a tight knot and left it to dry. The plump gall showed a faint bluish gold sheen, a top-grade iron gall. At the county supply co-op, it would sell for at least 400 yuan. This was also why hunters who went after bears in their dens had to wake them up first. If you killed a hibernating bear straight in the den, not only would the gall be of poor quality, but just getting a few 100 pounds of it out was a real problem. If you lingered too long, the bile would be absorbed, and then the bear gall wouldn't even fetch a few dozen yuan. I handled the gall and set it aside, then quickly bled the bear and cleaned out the body cavity. This bear had to yield at least 300 pounds of good meat, so we couldn't let it spoil. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua helped out. As custom dictated, the organs went up on tree branches as offerings to the mountain god. The hide was stripped off and rubbed with snow, and the bear paws were chopped off and set aside separately. As we worked, Tang Dao couldn't help but let out a sly chuckle. Mingzi, Xiaohua, this bear dick is a real treasure. Looking at the thing dangling in Tang Dao's hand, Lu Xiaohua snickered too. I, however, had my doubts. The tiger's was the most famous, soaked in liquor. It was said to boost male potency and strengthen the kidneys. After that came sika deer, leopards, and the like. I'd never heard that a black bear's equipment could be used for steeping liquor. But I knew bear meat was warming, capable of tonifying the kidneys and strengthening the body. Maybe there really were people who enjoyed that sort of thing. We'd bring it along. It wasn't heavy anyway. One bear had yielded over 300 pounds of meat. Bear gallbladders, bear hides, and bear paws were even more valuable. For a first trip into the mountains, this was practically a heavenly start. We cut the bear meat into large chunks while Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua gathered materials to build a makeshift sled. After loading up the spoils, the three of us hauled the sled back in a hurry. By then, the large chunks of bear meat were already half frozen. Winter in the northeast was essentially one giant freezer. This place was quite a distance from Yawazi village. When we came, the three of us had walked a day and a night. On the way back, we'd definitely have to stay somewhere overnight. If we moved fast, we could make it home by tomorrow evening. On the way, Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua snapped out of it, and the two started gesturing wildly and bragging. Mingzi saw it clear as day. My spear went right in. Dahu, cut the crap. You were accurate, and I wasn't. Heh, both of us were. But if you ask me, Mingzi is the impressive one. Even a shot point blank to the forehead couldn't have been that clean. That's right. It all comes down to Mingzi's skill. I was the one pulling the sled, and I just listened with a grin. In my previous life, these two were my good brothers, and they truly treated me and my family well. But neither of them had a happy life. Tang Dahu, because he was poor, went a few years later to secretly work as a day laborer at a logging camp, where he crushed his leg and wasted away his life. Lu Xiaohua could sing a renzuan, with a voice like the moon veiled by clouds, a skill passed down from his family. But in those years, even with the skill, you couldn't put food on the table. A few years later, he secretly took jobs performing at weddings and funerals and was sentenced to 5 years for speculation and profiteering. By the time he got out, his courage had been shattered. He never sang again and never held his head up for the rest of his life. Looking at the two young faces, brimming with joy and full of hope for life, I found it hard to match them with the two dull, even numb, elderly faces from my previous life. Thank goodness, I'm back. This time, my two good brothers won't end up in that state again. My nose tingled, I stopped to rest my legs, and cheerfully called to Lu Xiaohua. Xiaohua, sing us a few lines. Lu Xiaohua cleared his throat, a voice as mellow as the moon veiled in clouds, let go of the sled, straightened his back, and sang. It's the first month, the third and fourth day. The village is on New Year break. The two of us go visiting. Turning around, I called to him. Come over here, there's something. See if there's a breeze outside. Just the two of us, holding the child. Go that day and come back that day. Go see my dad and mom, your father-in-law. Yeah. I hadn't heard a voice like that in decades, and hearing it again, I almost shed tears. A passage of double homecoming also cheered up Tang Dao, who kept egging on Lu Xiaohua. Xiaohua, sing something naughty. Out in the wild hills with no outsiders around, Lu Xiaohua said and then launched into a full song. The pretty widow opens the door. That's why they say this stuff has to be bawdy. The three brothers laughed and joked, their spirits shooting up in a flash. We dragged the sled, huffing and puffing, for a little over half the way when I saw the sky about to go dark. I hurriedly found a spot to dig out a snow shelter. You can't dawdle in the mountains. Once the sun sets, the temperature drops sharply, and getting frostbitten is a lifelong problem. The three of us quickly got a campfire going. Tonight we'd have to take turns keeping watch. A whole sled load of bear meat was bound to attract wild animals. With only one single spear and no hunting dogs, this night was going to be rough. I put Lu Xiaohua, the weakest of us, on the first watch, took the most dangerous second watch myself, and had Tang Dahu take the third. We dragged over a few extra rotten logs and got the campfire burning strong. We picked the rib sections with the best mix of fat and lean, cut them into small pieces, and roasted them on sticks. The rich bear meat sizzled and dripped with oil, making all three of us swallow our saliva constantly. Who had any grease in their gut in times like these? Nobody cared about the gamey smell of bear meat. We stuffed it into warm, toasted multi-grain buns and added a bit of pickled kohlrabi. The three of us nearly swallowed our tongues. It was freaking delicious. That gamey smell actually became a wonderful texture. Bear meat is dry and heavy. After eating, a few sips of hot water had the three of us sweating from our foreheads, feeling as hard as nails. We threw more wood on the campfire, and Tang Dahu and I crawled into the snow cave to sleep first. Lu Xiaohua crouched at the entrance of the snow cave with his rifle, his eyes wide open. Lying inside the snow cave, I secretly planned that as soon as we got back, I needed to find myself a few good dogs. Since we were going to make our living patrolling the mountains and hunting dogs were absolutely indispensable partners. No matter how skilled a hunter was, in the deep old forest he was no match for a good hunting dog. A well-trained dog could pick up on prey tracks ahead of time, give chase, and at critical moments hold the prey down long enough for the hunter to get a shot. As for keeping watch over camp and guarding the kill, that went without saying. A dog's nose and ears were sharp as could be. Bang! Just as we'd fallen asleep, Tang Dahu and I were jolted awake by a gunshot. Xiaohua, what's going on? Wild game. We scrambled out of the snow cave in a panic, only to see Lu Xiaohua already on his feet. He was still holding the smoking rifle. Mingzi Dahu, there's something. Lu Xiaohua was panting, his nerves taut. I hurriedly checked the sled. The neatly bound bear meat had been torn open at one corner. I had underestimated the greed of wild animals for food and the audacity of the mountain predators. I saw a dark shadow leap onto the sled, an enormous one, like an old wildcat, but much bigger. Lu Xiaohua was badly scared, but luckily he was sharp and, just as I had instructed, he fired at the wild animal on sight. A lynx? A leopard? It definitely wasn't a Siberian tiger. The size didn't match. Though the three of us had camped in an old forest, it was still only the outskirts. To see a Siberian tiger, you would have to go deeper. A leopard was also unlikely. It was most likely a lynx. I was instantly on alert. Felines are highly agile, appearing and disappearing without a trace in the deep forest, making them extremely hard to hunt. Forget the Northeast's golden-shaded cat. If you ran into that thing, a single rifle wouldn't save your life. Even with a lynx, an old hunter would have to rely on luck. Correspondingly, big cats came with a hefty price tag. A lynx pelt, even with 3 or 4 bullet holes, could easily sell for 1,000 or so yuan in these times. What does 1,000 yuan mean? Even if you scoured every household in the whole of Yawazi village, you couldn't scrape together that much. Besides, that big cat had clearly set its sights on the bear meat on the sled. There was no way we were getting any sleep tonight. When I said that, Tang Dao got so excited he hollered. He insisted on killing that lynx that was stealing our bear meat, skinning it, and selling the pelt for money, so we could eat and drink well for a fat new year. Lu Xiaohua wasn't scared anymore either. No matter how fierce a lynx was, could it be fiercer than a black bear? Let's go get the damn thing. I quickly poured cold water on the two young brothers. All we needed to do was guard our bear meat. When it came to lynxes, staying alive was the top priority. When Tang Dahu heard we were passing up 1,000 yuan, he got anxious. Mingzi, what's there to be afraid of? What are you worried about? What are you worried about? Because it's not easy to hit. Even though I'm a good shot, and the sawed-off is pretty decent, I really don't have much confidence in hitting a wary lynx in the dark. I was also worried that if we got the lynx frantic, something might happen to the three of us. A lynx can't beat a black bear, because it would never go head-on with one, but that doesn't make it any less dangerous. Let me give a not quite appropriate example. In later years, when stray cats are all over the streets, who would dare to reach out and pet one that weighs more than 10 pounds? Even a domestic cat, if it's 10 plus pounds and gets furious, you can pin it down, but you'll still get scratched. Lynxes in the old forests of northeast China grow bigger than elsewhere. Adults can reach over 60 pounds. What does a 60-pound lynx mean? Heavier than many hunting dogs. At the same weight, canids generally can't beat felits. An adult lynx has both agility and strength, a real pain to deal with. A good hunting dog that runs into this thing in the forest is nothing but a plate of food. The big cat is so agile and can climb trees, it'll toy with the hunting dog to death. The break-action single shot was a pain to load. If that one shot missed, the three of us were done for. I didn't think we could react faster than a lynx, especially at night lit only by a campfire. We couldn't chase it or go looking for it. All we could do was sit by the fire and wait for that big cat to appear and steal the bear meat. If we got lucky and hit it with a single shot, that would be the true perfect start. But ideals were rosy, while reality was harsh. That lynx came back twice more during the night. I fired the moment I saw it, but didn't hit it once. Part of it was that the lynx was too agile. The other part was that it was so cold. I didn't dare keep my finger on the trigger the whole time. I'd have to make a pair of warm gloves suitable for shooting later. It wasn't until dawn that the lynx disappeared into the mountains, dragging away a large chunk of bear meat. Tang Dahu was so furious he cursed his mother. We'd risked our lives hunting that bear, so why did that stinking cat get to eat it for free? Lu Xiaohua also grumbled, insisting that we should sell the bear hide and pause to get ourselves a few good guns. If the three of us each had a Type 56 semi-auto, could that lynx have gotten away unscathed? I coaxed them like kids, saying we'd remember this spot and come back with better guns to claim its fine fur. That's pure nonsense. Felines may have strong territorial instincts, but in this freezing cold, who knows where that lynx has gone to find a bite to eat? If we come looking again, we'd probably not find even a single hair. The three of us didn't dare linger too long. We roasted some bear meat, ate and drank our fill, then pulled the sled homeward. In the deep forest at 20 to 30 below zero, even crawling into a snow cave lined with bear hide was pure misery. Hurry up, and we can sleep on the warm brick bed at home tonight. At 5 in the afternoon, the three finally hauled the sled to the entrance of Yawa village. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua each carried a back basket full of bear meat, grinning from ear to ear with their teeth bared. The bear gall was to cure Zhao Qingji's illness. The rest, bear paws, hide, and meat, had to be traded for money and guns, and the three of us would split the proceeds later. Mingzi, with all this bear meat, Xiaohua and I have more than enough. Tang Dahu figured the dozens of pounds of bear meat in his basket was enough for a bountiful new year, so there was no need to split the money. But if they could get hold of any guns, then one had to be saved for him. Lu Xiaohua took the same stance. Mingzi, it was all your skill that got us that bear. We two just pitched in some muscle. We really can't take a share of the money. I didn't agree, and I didn't want to argue with the two simpletons at the village entrance. So I waved my hand and said we'd talk later. I dragged the nearly 200 pounds of bear meat home. The Zhao household was in an uproar. Mother Lu Zuolan grabbed a broom and started whacking me. I was wearing thick clothes, so I just took it as dusting off, grinning like a fool. Zhao Qingji heard the noise and came out to look. So startled he coughed. My younger sister Zhao Fong, sensible as ever, pulled at me with tearful eyes and kept checking me over, afraid I had injuries. My little brother Zhao Qing clapped his hands and hollered, silly as could be. We've got meat. Bear meat for dinner. Just goes to show you can't get too carried away. Lu Zuolan immediately redirected her fire. You look like bear meat. Whack whack. The broom came down on Zhao Qing. That silly kid shrieked and wailed, crying loud enough to shake the sky. Why are you hitting me? What for? I watched this loving scene of mother and son. My heart felt warm. The family affection I had missed in my previous life was finally made up for at this moment. No one in the family had expected that after being away for 3 days and 2 nights, I actually hunted a bear. You'd think it was already impressive to bag a squirrel or something on your first trip into the mountains, but a bear? For years, Yawazi village hadn't produced a single hunter. A few people set traps in the mountains, but no one actually used guns. It got to the point where Lu Zuolan let it slip. Use a 7.62mm break-action rifle to shoot a squirrel? One shot, and there'd be hardly any fur left. That thing needed to be caught with a snare. After all the scolding and cursing, they couldn't very well refuse the bear meat their son had risked his life to bring back. They sent Zhao Qing, who was still sniffling, out to invite people. Uncle Zhao Qing's family, several clan relatives, and close friends. They called them all over to share the meat. These days, everyone's stomachs lacked fat and oil, and when there was good food, you definitely called close ones to taste it. This was also a habit left from the Chuang Guangdong era. In that bitter, frozen land, you couldn't survive without sticking together. Zhao Fong, now a young woman, started helping her mother, adding water to both the big pot on the stove and the small pot on the burner. The fat trimmings were cut into chunks and thrown straight into the pot. Once the water boiled off, they rendered out oil. Wild game has a strong, gamey smell, and the room was instantly filled with a strange odor like singed pig hair. Back then, people weren't as finicky as later generations. Having meat and oil was already good enough. Never mind the smell. Once it went into your stomach, it was all good fat. As the oil rendered out, that strange smell slowly faded into a rich, savory aroma. The kids were quick on their feet. Zhao Qing scurried off and gathered everyone, with a bunch of little followers in tow. No household stood on ceremony. They all came bustling over, and the women and girls washed their hands right away to help cook. The men sat on the kong smoking and chatting, every face brighter than during the New Year. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua's families were invited too. With more people, cooking was easier, though the half-grown boys were useless. The room was so smoky it kept making Zhao Qingji cough. The two brothers pulled me and Zhao Kuei off to hide in the storeroom. Having seen the bear skin, bear gall, and bear paws with his own eyes, Zhao Kuei's guilt eased a little. We were all close cousins, and even though I voluntarily gave up my enlistment spot, Zhao Kuei still felt uneasy. Having lived 2 lives, I could see through it clearly, so I took the chance to ease his mind. Brother Dahui, don't overthink it. Once you're in the military, work hard and strive to get promoted so you can stay. Yeah, Mingzi, I'm sorry about this. Cut that crap. I don't want to be ordered around. Patrolling the mountains and hunting is pretty great. At least our family won't lack meat in the future. Mingzi, stop it. I've noted it all in my heart. Steaming hot dumplings stuffed with sauerkraut and fried pork fat were brought to the table. Dumplings with liquor, the more you drink, the more you have. Rich, greasy bear meat stewed with potatoes. Everyone in the room was eating until the corners of their mouths dripped with oil. With scallions and pickled cabbage hearts dipped in sauce, the whole room drank with fervor. When the excitement peaked, at someone's shout, Lu Xiaohua's parents stood up and launched into a duet performance. In earlier years during the campaigns, people wouldn't have dared to sing such things. But those movements were long over, and besides, the Northeast, due to its special geographical environment, was relatively isolated in terms of information. No matter what storms blew over, they'd lose some of their force. And with everyone happily staying home during the winter, there weren't so many taboos. That drinking session left everyone fully satisfied. The next morning, Zhao Ming took the bear gall and 20 caddies of bear meat and headed straight for Medicine Box's house. Mingzi's here. Io, this bear gall is almost copper grade, potent stuff. Medicine Box was over 60. His hair was gray, but his eyes weren't dim and his ears weren't deaf. His face didn't have the common sickly look of the times. Instead, it was ruddy and healthy. Masterly. This bear gall is for curing my father, and this bear meat is my token of respect for you. Zhao Ming put the bear meat directly on the snow pile in the yard. With the temperature at dozens of degrees below zero, every household kept a snow pile in the yard for storing food. He opened the snow pile, buried the bear meat, covered it up, and only then went inside. Medicine Box smiled kindly, puffing on his dry tobacco pipe, and praising Zhao Qingji for not raising his son in vain. By now the whole village had heard. The eldest son of the Zhao family had passed up the chance to join the army, insisting on patrolling the mountains and hunting. Those who didn't know the inside story might think Zhao Ming had run afoul of something. Those who did know, no matter what they thought, had to give a thumbs up and praise his filial devotion. The prescription was ready, but Chinese medicine prescriptions are not set in stone. They must be adjusted based on the patient's specific condition, with additions and subtractions. Medicine Box didn't hesitate. He called for his granddaughter to bring his medicine case and went straight to Zhao Ming's house to take Zhao Qingji's pulse again. Li Shixiang came out from the inner room, carrying the medicine case. Catching sight of Zhao Ming, she blushed for no apparent reason. As for Zhao Ming, he didn't mind. They lived in the same village, had seen each other before, and were even junior high classmates. Back at the Zhao home, Medicine Box took Zhao Qingji's pulse and changed the original prescription in 3 places. 2 of the herbs needed to be procured from other people's homes, requiring cash. Uncle Li, I'll go to the county town tomorrow and exchange that bearskin for money. That works. Your father's illness isn't urgent enough to worry about 3 or 5 days. I'll go ahead and prepare the bear gall first. Since Medicine Box had made a special trip in the freezing cold, there was no reason at all to let him leave. They sent Zhao Qing to fetch Li Shixiang as well, and they would all have lunch at the Zhao home. Although Medicine Box possessed many skills, his lot in life was hard. He lost his wife early, and in middle age, he lost his son. Now only he and his granddaughter remained, dependent on each other. During the political movements in previous years, it was only thanks to people of all levels shielding them that the grandfather and granddaughter escaped serious trouble. This was partly due to the debts of kindness accumulated over 40 years of practicing medicine. But the crucial reason was his high medical skill. No matter how capable a person may be, they cannot avoid the occasional headache or fever. A rare treasure like Medicine Box, no one was willing to harm. Fellow villagers were not too particular about such things. Bear meat stewed with potatoes, dried beans, dried eggplant, plus cabbage and vermicelli. Just toss it all in and eat heartily. This pot of Northeast-style mixed stew would not taste good without plenty of oil and fat. But with the addition of fatty bear meat and lots of spices, the flavor was incredibly delicious. Li Shixiang was not very talkative and had a gentle, refined manner. She was eager to help with cooking, and after eating, she also helped clean up. In the afternoon, the two girls slipped off to one side with second sister Zhao Feng, chattering intimately. Lu Zuolan kept stealing glances at the fair-skinned, delicate Li Shixiang, her mind working, and plied the medicine box with cigarettes even more diligently. After another night, Zhao Ming set out for the county town at dawn, carrying 50 jin of bear meat, 2 front paws, the bear hide, and that particular bunch Tang Dao had deliberately cut off, having borrowed the production team's little donkey. Going to the county town had been planned long ago. When you patrolled the mountains and hunted, the catch also had to be turned into cash. Zhao Ming first went to the supply and marketing cooperative, where the bear hide sold for 300. The cooperative's director kept pulling him aside to ask about the most valuable bear gall. These days there was no animal protection law. Wild beasts would come out of the mountains from time to time to prey on the common folk. Everyone's attitude toward these creatures was unanimous. Kill as many as you can. If they all died out, so much the better. Food was already so scarce. Every extra mouthful a wild beast took meant one fewer mouthful for people. Sometimes, losing just one mouthful could cost a life. It was only a normal transaction for hunters to bring their mountain gains to the cooperative and exchange them for money. But a complete bearskin was a rare thing, seen only a few times a year. Those who could hunt bears were all experienced old hands, and if you nurtured good relations with them, there would naturally be a steady stream of game in the future. Zhao Ming didn't hide it. He said the bear gall was being kept to cure his father's illness. The director immediately raised his opinion of him, filial piety. The two agreed that from then on, any good catches would be sent to the supply and marketing co-op. Only then did Zhao Ming lead his donkey away. Fortunately, the bear paws and that other bundle were already packed in the bag and tied up tightly. Otherwise, if the director had seen them, there would have been another round of haggling. With 30 Tinyuan notes in hand, Zhao Ming went straight to find his fourth great-uncle Zhang Dashan. In both his past and present life, he had often visited Zhang Dashan's home. Familiar with the way, he led his donkey right up to the door. "Grandma, has Grandpa gotten off work yet?" The courtyard gate was open, and fourth grandaunt Lin Yuang was tidying the yard. She looked up and saw Zhao Ming leading his donkey. "Mingzi, why are you here?" Zhang Dashan and his wife were both in their 50s. Their 2 sons were both serving in the army far away, and both had married, had children, and settled down elsewhere. The old couple usually cherished visits from the younger generation. But today Lin Yuang was a bit flustered. "Mingzi, your granduncle is still angry with you. Child, what on earth were you thinking? Why did you give up such a good opportunity to join the army and let someone else have it? Grandaunt, Brother Dahui isn't just anyone. I've brought something great for you both," Zhao Ming said as he carried 50 pounds of bear meat into the yard. As he spoke, Zhang Dashan rode back on his old bicycle. "You little rascal, you still dare to show your face? Why didn't your father beat you to death at home?" Zhang Dashan was an ex-soldier with a fiery temper, and he chased Zhao Ming around the whole yard. Granduncle, don't hit me yet. I did it to cure my dad." Zhang Dashan already knew about Zhao Qingji's condition. After looking at the bear meat and bear paws in the storeroom, Zhang Dashan let out a sigh. "Have you had lunch?" "Not yet. Come have a couple of drinks with me in a bit." "All right." The two of them sat on the heated brick bed and started drinking across the little Kong table. Having lived 2 lives, Zhao Ming knew how to say the right things. "No matter who goes to join the army, fourth granduncle still thought of me. I'll be grateful for that kindness all my life. Zhang Dashan didn't beat around the bush. Mingzi, tell me the truth. What's the deal with those bare paws? And 2 front paws, no less. Nothing special. Just wanted to nourish you and my grandma. Nourish my ass. Eat and drink your fill. Then take those 2 bare paws and get the hell out of here. Hightail it to the supply and marketing cooperative and trade them in for cash. Your dad's treatment costs money. There's enough money for my dad's treatment, granduncle. I heard you want to change jobs. Zhang Dashan worked at the County Armed Forces Department, a fine post by any measure. But he'd always wanted to return to the army. This was no secret. Everyone close to him knew it. He definitely couldn't get back into a combat unit, but the Northeast Construction Corps was right beside him. Going there would do just fine. Just like a hardcore drunkard with a craving. If there's no 72-proof donkey knockdown to be had, 50-proof bulk white liquor can still take the edge off. Originally, after the new year, Zhang Dashan cajoled and pestered his old superior until he got what he wanted, entering the construction corps. Later, when the corps was dissolved in a restructuring, he was reassigned to the Forestry Bureau. In his previous life, Zhao Ming's forest ranger job had also been arranged with Zhang Dashan's help. Zhang Dashan, holding his wine cup, wore a half-smile. What? You little rascal, you're trying to teach me about gift-giving. Folk back then were honest and mostly stuck in their ways, so Zhao Ming didn't dare take up that threat. Uncle, how could that be called giving gifts? Zhao Ming had drunk more than half a gin of 60-proof loose liquor. His face flushed red. You've got no hope of getting back into the army. You're still thinking about the production corps, aren't you? Uncle, no matter whose help you're asking for, can you show up at their door empty-handed? We can't neglect propriety. Get the hell out of here. I don't need you to teach me about propriety. Zhang Dashan laughed and cursed. The bare paw was accepted after all. As for that bundle, that afternoon Zhang Dashan made a special trip to the supply and marketing co-op, bought a plastic bucket of good 70-degree loose liquor, cleaned the thing up, and soaked it straight in. Zhao Ming had no idea whether the thing would work, but he was very much looking forward to gaining a new little uncle next year. The bare paw was accepted, the bare penis was steeping, and only then did Zhao Ming reveal the real reason he had come. Uncle, hook us up with a few good guns. I'll get you a calf. A few? Going into the mountains is real dangerous. A single break-action shotgun just ain't safe. I'll scrounge some up for you. In those later years, the Northeast was still a society of personal connections. Linqing County wasn't big, and Zhang Dashan, after much pondering, set his sights on the County Public Security Bureau. The construction corps definitely didn't lack guns, but those were all accounted for and tricky to get at. The Public Security Bureau had confiscated a good number of guns, piled up in the warehouse. Zhang Dashan had heard someone mention it over drinks last time. Although this era didn't ban guns or hunting, getting a suitable one wasn't easy. As soon as Zhao Ming saw there was a lead, he rode Zhang Dashan's reinforced 28-inch bicycle straight back to the village, skidding and slipping all the way, tumbling 3 or 5 times before he got home. He brought along the 2 remaining hind paws from home, called Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua, one on the rear rack and one on the front crossbar. And the 3 brothers skidded and slipped all the way back to the county, this time with even more spills. Zhao Ming first went to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy a few packs of good filtered cigarettes, and only then did the trio follow Zhang Dashan straight to the Public Security Bureau. There were plenty of guns in the warehouse, ranging from old bolt-action rifles to Type 56 semi-automatics. As for maintenance, forget it, they were already meant for destruction. The person in charge approved 2 guns and told us to pick whichever we liked. The 3 of them chose with great care. Zhao Ming picked a Type 56 semi-automatic, Tang Dao got a Mosin Nagant, and Lu Xiaohua kept using the break-action gun he'd traded corn kernels for. They slipped the warehouse staff some cigarettes, chatted a while, and the man threw in 2 extra cases of ammunition. All 3 guns fired 7.62mm rounds, and there was plenty of that, so resupplying later would be easy. After picking up the guns, the trio ignored Zhang Dashan's attempts to keep them and insisted on heading home that very day. They were all itching to find a place to test-fire their weapons. One little donkey couldn't carry 3 strapping young men. Zhang Dashan lent them his reinforced 28-inch bicycle. The bearskin had sold for 300 yuan, and Zhao Ming planned to split it 3 ways, 100 apiece. But Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua disagreed. Ming, when we hunt in the mountains, we rely entirely on you, and you did the most work. Keep the money for yourself. Splitting all that bear meat is more than enough for us. Yeah, we too don't want any money. In later generations, when people went into partnerships, everyone would complain they were getting too small a share. Yet these two thought Zhao Ming was giving them too much, two blockheads. After much persuasion, Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua each took 70 yuan. They also agreed that from then on, any gains from venturing into the old forest would be split by the same ratio. With money in hand, the three brothers went back into the supply and marketing cooperative, buying candies, melon seeds, canned fruit, and bottled beidakang liquor. Each of them bought a little something. Money was hard to earn back then, but prices were remarkably heartwarming. 10 or 20 yuan could fill an entire bag with goods. The only catch was that anything good that counted as a big-ticket item required ration coupons. Zhang Dashan's bicycle, for instance, had needed industrial tickets. Slipping and sliding all the way home, brimming with joy, they arrived just as the sky was turning dark. Testing the gun and such would have to wait until tomorrow. The three brothers parted at the village entrance. Lu Xiaohua took the donkey to return it, since he had a way with words. Zhao Ming specifically instructed, "Remember to slip old Li, who tends the big livestock for the team, 2 boxes of hongmei. From now on, whenever we hunt and sell in the county, we'll be borrowing that donkey often." As soon as he stepped in the door, Zhao Ming started pulling things out of the bag one by one. Zhao Qing burst into gleeful cheers and leaps. "There are candies and sunflower seeds. I want to eat sunflower seeds first." Bang bang, 2 knocks on the head. "You're the one who looks like a sunflower seed." Mom Lu Tsulan arrived at the scene right on time, broom in hand. "Where's the money?" "Hand it over. I'll keep it for you. If it's in your hands, you'll fritter it all away in a few days." Zhao Ming didn't get angry. He obediently pulled out the remaining 120-odd yuan. Lu Tsulan quickly put the money away, and then, feeling a pang in her heart, gave Zhao Ming 2 more whacks. Only then was it settled. These days everyone is poor. Splitting a cent in 2 to spend it isn't knowing how to run a household. Those who know how to run a household never spend a cent unless it's absolutely necessary. She put all the goodies Zhao Ming bought into the cabinet on the Kong, and only then did she go to reheat the food while grumbling. Zhao Qing got a beating, but got a handful of sunflower seeds and 2 candies in return. And the little rascal was smugly pleased, feeling he'd made a profit. Second sister Zhao Fong also loved the treats, but she thought of herself as a grown girl now and had to be sensible, so she didn't say a word. In those days, kids couldn't get snacks unless it was New Year or a festival. If they wanted something sweet, they had to forage in the woods themselves. Berries were one of the few treats around, though eating too many berries could leave you constipated. "Eruder, come here. Big brother has something good for you." Sitting at the foot of the Kong, Zhao Ming put on a mysterious air. Zhao Fong sidled over and saw her eldest brother pull a notebook, a pen, and 3 pieces of candy from his pocket. "Thanks, big brother." Zhao Fong, who did pretty well in school, immediately lit up. Brother, what about me? What about me?" Zhao Qing, with a candy in his mouth, had been sneaking peeks. Zhao Ming smiled and pulled out a wind-up tin frog. He wound it up and set it on the Kong, and it went hop, hop, hop across the bed. "Oh, I have a little frog. I have a little frog." Zhao Qing, though a bit simple in the head, was a natural optimist. With the tin frog in hand, even the spanking from Mom's broomstick didn't hurt as much. Just wasting money. "Zhao Qingji, aren't you going to do something about him?" Zhao Qingji, sitting on the heated Kong and squinting at a bottle of beidakang liquor in his hand, gave a cough. "Huh? I'll take care of it right away. Mingzi, when you report accounts to your mother from now on, remember to underreport a bit." Ouch. Why is this fierce woman hitting people? Outside, the north wind howled, but inside the house it was lively and warm, just as it should be. At the first light of dawn, before the sun had come up, Zhao Ming, who had stayed home for 3 days, was fully geared up, planning to go into the mountains again. Yesterday, Aunt Guixiang had made a special trip to his house, saying that over in the meadow near Daegu, someone had spotted wild boars, and quite a few at that. Getting the news, Zhao Ming called Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua to go hunt the wild boars. It had been bitterly cold since the start of winter, making every breath from their noses turn white. He wore a heavy cotton-padded jacket, cotton mittens, felt boots on his feet, and inside them, a pair of wool socks a finger thick. They could withstand the 50 degrees below zero weather, but moving around was a bit clumsy. These past few days, Zhao Ming and the other 2 hadn't actually been idle. All day long they practiced their shooting in the meadow not far from the village. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua were both starting from zero, and Zhao Ming taught them without holding back. Within a few days, they were actually shaping up nicely. In an age when even radios were a rarity, country folks spent the winter holed up at home. That was literally true. Since Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua didn't want to spend all day drinking and playing cards, The newly acquired guns became a great way to pass the time. As for taking the guns apart and cleaning them, there was no need to mention it. Whenever they had nothing else to do, the two would hold their guns and practice aiming. Liu Xiaohua, because his break-open pistol was inconvenient to load, even practiced a move that wasn't exactly a rare skill but was still something special. He held the gun with his left hand and clamped 3 bullets between the fingers of his right hand, loading one after each shot. He wasn't slow at all. The family all thought these two dummies must have lost their minds. But since they were going to make a living by patrolling the mountains and hunting, fiddling with guns was a means of survival, so no one interfered. Thanks to all these factors, the two lads improved with amazing speed. The 3 brothers met up and headed out of the village. Tang Dahu and Liu Xiaohua each carried a big basket on their backs as usual. Their skills weren't up to par yet, and they relied entirely on Zhao Ming to be the main force, so they naturally had to manage their stamina wisely. Mingzi, how many trips has Li Shixiang made over to your place these past few days? Liu Xiaohua asked with a sly grin. Before Zhao Ming could answer, Tang Dahu, with an honest, simple look, spoke up first. Not many. She came twice in 3 days and stayed a whole day each time. Oh, at this rate, we'd better find something good to sell. Before spring even comes, I bet Mingzi will be married. Piss off. She was just bringing medicine for my dad. There are so many people who come to medicine box for treatment. Why doesn't Li Shixiang deliver medicine to any of them? That's right, that's right. The 2 brothers teasing planted a seed of doubt in Zhao Ming's mind. In his previous life, all his family had passed away, filling him with guilt and remorse. He had never had the mind to get married, so he truly had no concept of such things. Besides, he was used to the open, casual way men and women in the modern era interacted, and for the moment, he simply hadn't noticed anything odd about Li Shixiang. Since the day before yesterday, when Medicine Box had finished preparing the medicine, Li Shixiang had spent 2 days in a row brewing the medicine and delivering it to Zhao Ming's house. After handing it over, she'd play with his second sister Zhao Fong for the whole day. Now that he thought about it, how could the girl not have any feelings for him? Her pretty face surfaced in his mind, unbidden. Li Shixiang's delicate features and the sound of her soft, gentle voice. Especially when she answered him, her fair cheeks would blush. What an idiot I am. To ease the awkwardness, Zhao Ming proactively brought up the news he had gotten 3 days earlier when he returned the bicycle to Zhang Dashan's house. In at most half a month, the construction corps would organize a hunting drive, specifically to hunt wild boars. The natural environment these days was simply too good. There were so many wild beasts in the mountains, and from time to time they would dash out and wreak havoc on people. Though it wasn't as exaggerated as in earlier years, when you could be walking along and run into a wolf trailing behind you, it still caused enormous losses to the production and daily lives of the people, especially wild boars. In a single night, they could plow up several acres of land just to eat the seeds that had just been planted. And when these things moved out, they came in droves. At the very worst, they could turn over 100-some acres in one night. In the Northeast these days, farming meant sowing widely with scant harvest. Who could stand such destruction from wild beasts? As for protecting them, that was pure nonsense. People are being tormented to the point they can't survive. Protect whom? Let's protect the people first. Zhang Dashan had heard that the Corps would step in and organize it. There will be Corps members, sent down educated youths, and hunters from all the surrounding villages. When the time comes, the 3 of us should go too, not to show off, but to ask around about who has good dogs. Hunting dogs are too important to hunters, and not every dog can be a hunting dog. Since they make their living patrolling the mountains and hunting, they can't be without a hunting dog, and it has to be a good one. Originally, Zhao Ming had planned to take his time searching the surrounding townships, waiting until some good hunting dog had pups, then buy or trade to get a couple and raise them himself. In these times, word spread slowly. And with winter idleness in full swing, sizing up a fine hunting dog would take time. The organized hunt, following convention, offers work points and other benefits. Hunters from the entire Linqing County are likely to gather, and I reckon hunters from neighboring counties will come too. That will save a whole lot of trouble when it comes to inquiring about dogs. The 3 of them chatted and laughed, walking along the forest edge toward Daegu. The meadow was frozen solid, with at least 2 feet of snow. Zhao Ming judged that the wild boars wouldn't linger there long. When they got there, sure enough, there wasn't a thing. Not having hunting dogs was a real hindrance. They had to rely entirely on Zhao Ming's experience to figure out where the boars were. Turning past that gully ahead, there was a sunny slope. Let's go check there. The sun had long since risen. The 3 of them crept silently to the foot of the sunny slope, and, sure enough, saw several boars rooting through the snow, searching for acorns, hazelnuts, and the like. Leading them was a huge boar weighing over 400 jin, also known as a big ball boar. Thick, sturdy tusks jutted from its snout as it walked at the front, clearing away the snow so that the four sows behind could eat more easily. The big ball boar was carrying wounds on its body, likely left over from fighting other boars for those four sows. When male boars compete for mating rights, they often stake their very lives on the outcome. Its tusks were good for rooting the ground, and they were equally fine for ripping open the bellies of its own kind. Mingzi, how do we take it? Tang Dahu licked his lips, and Lu Xiaohua was raring to go. Let's get a bit closer. It's too far to hit from here. Zhao Ming gauged the distance. It was a bit far. In his view, they would need to get within at least 200 meters to take a shot. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua were raw recruits, so that was out of the question. He himself couldn't guarantee an effective kill every time. The Type 56 semi-automatic had an effective range of 400 meters and a maximum range of 1,500. Across 400 meters, a wild boar shrank to a tiny black dot. A sharpshooter could hit it, but Zhao Ming wasn't that skilled. The three of them circled around from the flank and carefully found a firing position. The 5 wild boars, which were rooting through the snow for food, looked leisurely, but in reality, they were highly alert. At the slightest noise, the leading big boar would raise its head alertly and scan its surroundings. Moreover, wild animals had sharp senses of smell, so they had to approach from downwind. Zhao Ming picked the largest boar, while Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua each chose a large sow, too. They calmed their breathing and aimed. Ready, bang. Lu Xiaohua, excited, fired his break-open pistol a split second early. Zhao Ming didn't have time to think. He pulled the trigger of his Type 56 right behind him. In less than half a second, the big boar swung its head sharply in the snow, and the bullet grazed its scalp, leaving a bloody furrow. It missed. Lu Xiaohua fired early and hit a female wild boar in the belly. The 7.62 millimeters bullet tore straight through, blasting a huge bloody hole out the other side of the sow's stomach. The sow fled with a shrill squeal, its entrails trailing behind in a bloody streak. It was done for. And precisely because of that, Zhao Ming failed to drop the startled boar with his single shot. Tang Dahu's shot missed as well, the bullet burying itself in the snow. The wounded big boar didn't run. Instead, it wheeled around and charged straight at the spot where the three brothers were hiding. That showed just how ferocious a wild beast could be. Zhao Ming sprang to his feet, assumed a standard firing stance, and the Type 56 semi-auto roared again. Bang! The charging boar's forehead exploded in a mist of blood. It plowed headfirst into the snow. The sheer momentum sent the boar, which weighed over 400 pounds, tumbling a full somersault in the snow, flinging up a spray of powder before it lay still. Damn it! Tang Dahu missed his shot, jumped up in a fury, and fired another round from his Mosin Nagant at the wild boars scattering in flight. He couldn't necessarily hit a stationary target, let alone a moving one. Unsurprisingly, that shot missed as well. Lu Xiaohua had bullets tucked between his fingers, and although his recklessness had made him fire early and left him panicking inside, the reloading motion he'd practiced at home countless times had become muscle memory. He managed to load the break-action rifle with some deftness and quickly fired at the fleeing sow. Unfortunately, his form was off. The shot went way wide of the mark. Zhao Ming fired 2 more shots in succession, landing one on a sow's neck. To say nothing of arteries, he figured he'd even shattered its cervical spine. The other shot, since the boar had run farther away, only grazed its rump. For a wild beast like a boar, that was at most a superficial wound, and the boar only bolted faster. Damn it! Xiaohua, this is all your fault. My fault. My fault. My fingers were frozen numb and wouldn't listen to me. Get lost. It hasn't been long since you took off the mittens, and you're already losing your nerve. Heh, now that you've seen blood, next time you won't. Scram, scram, scram. You saw blood, but I didn't see a damn thing. First time shooting at a wild animal, and I didn't even hit a hair. Tang Dahu kept grumbling. Lu Xiaohua grinned, endlessly admitting his mistake, not caring about face at all. The three brothers had grown up together, knowing all sorts of each other's nonsense, and Lu Xiaohua didn't mind adding one more to the list. Zhao Ming suppressed a smile, pulled out his knife, and quickly bled the wild boar and cleaned out the cavity. Even in the biting cold winter, if you delayed a bit longer, the organs inside the dead boar would taint one another. If the cavity really turned, the meat would pick up a strange smell and be hard to cook. The boar Lu Xiaohua had shot through the belly had its cavity spoiled. Its intestines were severed and its organs shattered. After being hit, It didn't run far before toppling into the snow and dying. But even with a spoiled cavity, there was no way they'd just throw it away. In these times, nobody has any grease in their bellies. When there's meat to eat, who cares about the gamey smell? That's just being picky. Just add more spices and more chili peppers, and it's fine. To be honest, Zhao Ming was quite satisfied with today's haul. They'd taken down 3 of the 5 wild boars, which was a pretty good harvest. After all, Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua had only held guns for 3 days, and this was their first real combat. Yet they performed well. No one is a born marksman. They just need to practice slowly from now on. After dressing the big boar, it was still over 300 jin, while the 2 sows were smaller, together just barely over 400 jin. The 3 of them rigged up a makeshift sled, loaded the spoils, and headed home. Sunny Slope wasn't far from Yawazi village. They'd definitely make it back before dark. Halfway there, they stopped to rest and eat their fill before continuing. They made flatbread with bear oil and roasted it over the fire. It smelled amazing. They wrapped the soft flatbread around pickled rutabaga stir-fried in bear oil, and it was heavenly. Bear oil is a wonderful thing. It can dispel wind and dampness, nourish the blood, and expel worms, and even treat frostbite. Best of all, bear oil doesn't solidify easily in extremely cold conditions. Zhao Ming and the 3 brothers' rifles were all maintained with bear grease, so they never jammed or failed at critical moments. After finishing the pancakes and filling their bellies with hot water, the trio pulled the sled and pressed on with renewed energy. When they reached the village entrance, it wasn't dark yet, and they ran into quite a few people. Seeing the wild boar piled on the sled, everyone clicked their tongues in wonder, their eyes full of envy. Although people were simple and honest in those days, they were still capable of jealousy. But when it came to Zhao Ming and his brothers hunting, no one was envious. If you said you'd gone up the mountain to snare squirrels, or down into the river to catch frogs, there would be no shortage of people turning red-eyed with envy. But the trade of patrolling the mountains and hunting game? That was risking your life. What year passed without someone being crushed by a bear or gored by a wild boar? Once in the mountains, the ways to die were even stranger and more varied. Game brought back at the risk of your life wasn't something any normal person would covet. Back home, another bustle of commotion followed. Zhao Ming cut off both hind legs of the wild sow that hadn't spoiled in the cavity. One leg he sent to Aunt Guixiang's house, and he also cut over 10 caddies of bear meat as thanks for her tip-off. This is the rule, and also a matter of courtesy, absolutely not to be omitted. As far as Zhao Ming knew, in the following years, there were even people selling the locations of hibernating bears. Once the spot was confirmed, each one sold for 50 yuan. The other hind leg was carried over to Medicine Box's house. Medicine Box had been doing his utmost to treat Zhao Qingji, and Li Shixiang spent every day decocting and delivering medicine. Ahem, right? Anyway, it was just a way of showing thanks, that's all. Xiang see Mingzi out. Medicine Box took a puff from his pipe, looking at Zhao Ming with exceedingly kind eyes. Li Shixiang blushed and murmured an assent, her chin nearly dropping to her chest, and followed Zhao Ming out of the house. They lived in the same village. How many steps could the distance between their homes be? Did Zhao Ming really not know the way home? What was the point of seeing him off? Mingzi ji, these gloves are for you. With her head lowered, Li Shixiang's voice was barely louder than a mosquito's hum. She pulled out from somewhere a pair of gloves sewn from chipmunk fur. These were truly good stuff. Soft, light, and warm. Perfect for pulling a trigger while hunting. To keep playing dumb now would be to completely cut off the girl's hopes. Zhao Ming took a deep breath and said with a smile, Xiang I'm going to the county supply and marketing cooperative tomorrow to sell wild boar meat. What do you want me to bring back for you? There's nothing we need at home. I'm heading back, and you should head back too. Li Shixiang hung her head, turned, and trotted off, her fair face so flushed it could boil an egg. Zhao Ming clutched the chipmunk skin gloves, scratched his head, and chuckled foolishly. Zhao Ming, how about giving me a pork leg too? Just as dusk was falling, Zhao Ming hadn't noticed that in the freezing weather, someone was standing behind the corner of the wall. Changwan. Even though Zhao Ming dared to plunge into the deep woods to take down a black bear, the moment he caught sight of Changwan, he turned around, lowered his head, and bolted. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Keck out your tongue. Zhao Ming, don't run off. I'm not asking for the pork leg for nothing. My house has nobody. Forget it. If your house has nobody, that makes me even more scared. Changwan is a famous figure in Yawazi village. She was even quite famous in the township. Changwan was half a year younger than Zhao Ming, but she loved to fool around with men. Her reputation was entirely built on that. In his previous life, Zhao Ming stayed in the mountains every day, Yet he could still hear about Chang Wan's exploits, which shows how much trouble this woman could stir up. Around after the new year, Chang Wan would go to the township to fool around. She even accomplished the feat of single-handedly taking on all the male teachers at the township middle school. Because of that, she was stripped naked and paraded through the streets by a bunch of women, causing a sensation for a time. Around 1985, many merchants from the south came to Linqing County to buy timber, and Chang Wan fooled around with these merchants. In the end, she latched onto one from Hangzhou and went off with him to Hangzhou. It could be considered a legend of Yawazi village. Zhao Ming didn't dare provoke such a character. If you got involved with her, you'd end up covered in dirt and couldn't explain it no matter what. At Zhao Ming's house, his parents Lu Zuolan and Zhao Qingji, along with Zhao Feng, were processing the 3 wild boars. After bleeding and gutting the 3 boars, there were close to 700 jin of meat, and plenty of work remained. Her youngest son, Zhao Qing, was bustling around all smug, figuring he'd get to eat meat again. The boy bounced about like a little pest until a smack on the forehead set him straight. Wild boar meat is gamey and rank, especially that big uncastrated boar. To make it taste good, you had to be willing to slather on the oil and spices. Though there was still no small amount of bear fat left at home, it still made Lu Zuelan's heart ache and her brow furrow. All that waste just for a bite of meat. You truly couldn't blame Lu Zuelan for being stingy. In these times, everyone had been frightened half to death by poverty. The 3 pig heads were singed clean of hair, boiled thoroughly, then pressed in wooden frames with heavy stones on top, ready and waiting to become pig head tranche. As for the sow that hadn't spoiled in the belly, after it was carved up, a few cuts were sent to each of the families they were close with. The big boar and the other wild sow were simply dressed and kept aside to sell to the supply and marketing cooperative the next day. Using extra bear fat and spices in the stew made Lu Zuolan's heart ache, and she frowned. Yet when a 200 jin wild boar was given away to others, she was all smiles. The atmosphere of mutual help was one thing, but the real key was the awareness of not hogging food to oneself. The big stew made of rib meat smelled incredibly delicious, and the sliced pork head tranche dipped in garlic sauce was just perfect with liquor. The whole family had a lively, hearty meal, and just like a few days ago when they ate bear meat, everyone ended up with diarrhea. These days, everyone's stomachs lacked any oil or fat, so after wolfing down such a greasy feast, how could they not get the runs? Zhao Ming figured that after a few more such meals, this problem would go away. Early the next morning, he borrowed the team's donkey, hitched it to the cart, and headed straight for the county town. For wild boar with the head and hooves removed, the supply and marketing cooperative offered a purchase price of 7 mao per jin, while a whole one was 5 mao per jin. A male and a female wild boar, with heads and hooves removed, weighed over 390 jin. The director of the cooperative rounded it up to 400 jin, so Zhao Ming got 280 yuan in hand. With that much money, let alone in the countryside, even for workers in the county town who ate commodity grain, it could match a whole year's wages. As they say, wealth is found in peril. Although patrolling the mountains for hunting was dangerous, if you had real skills, the gains were considerable. He bought plastic hair clips for his second sister Zhao Feng and for Li Shixiang, and also picked up a bunch of spices and other odds and ends, spending over 20 yuan in total. And when he got home, he'd still have to endure his mother Lu Zuolan's scolding. But Zhao Ming was happy to do it. In his previous life, he didn't even have the chance to be smacked by his mother with a broomstick. Besides, having come from a later era, his spending habits were naturally different from the people of today. What was the point of slaving away for money if not to eat well, drink well, and live well? After finishing his errands, Zhao Ming drove the donkey cart over to his 4th great-uncle Zhang Dashan's place. He brought over 10 caddies of rib meat and a big chunk of braised pig head tranche, then enjoyed a hearty drinking session. Feeling perfectly content, he drove the cart back to Yawazi village without any delay. Relatives need to be kept close. Everyone has their own scale of judgment in their heart. If you never think of people when good things come around, but only go knocking on their door when you need help, even if you don't lose face completely, they'll inevitably feel uncomfortable about it. Being a solitary man with no one to lean on, if you can avoid it, you'd better. During the midday drinking, Zhao Ming heard that there was some progress on Zhang Dashan's job transfer. It was already a matter of just one final step. Zhang Dashan had been pestering his old leader for quite some time, and originally the leader planned to handle it after the new year. But after listening to Zhao Ming's advice, he carried 2 bear paws to the leader's doorstep. The old leader said Zhang Dashan was engaging in corrupt practices and gave him a thorough dressing down. The bear paws were confiscated as well. Still, he did agree to arrange for him to join the construction corps before the new year. Listening to fourth grade uncle's complaints, Zhao Ming just grinned from ear to ear. Never mind whether he got scolded or not. Tell me, didn't it get done? On the way back to the village, Zhao Ming felt hot all over, even pulling off his fur hat. At noon he drunk the bare penis wine Zhang Dashan had brewed last time. A good white liquor at 70% alcohol. Even if he'd had too much, he shouldn't be feeling like this. Could it really be that Bear's thing down there was working? It had only steeped for a few days, and already there's an effect. At this rate, I'll be getting a little uncle in no time. After entering the village, he first returned the donkey and the cart. Old Li, who looked after the large animals, got a pack of red plum cigarettes, his weathered old face beaming like a chrysanthemum. Zhao Ming knew how to get along with people. He didn't throw his weight around just because his uncle was the production team leader. Not only did Old Li get a share every time, even the donkey came back with 2 soybean cakes after going out with him. Mingzi, just say the word whenever you need the donkey. Sure thing. It wasn't that Old Li was being a big shot and taking everything on himself. Although the donkey was the brigade's public property, it had nothing to do besides turning the millstone. Sitting idle in the shed was a waste anyway, so it might as well be lent to Zhao Ming to earn 2 soybean cakes. As soon as he stepped inside, his mother Lu Tsuolan saw his bulging bag and bent down to grab the broom. My brother bought treats again. Ooh, there are goodies. Zhao Qing had been listening with his ears pricked up. The moment Zhao Ming came in, he dashed out of the room. As they say, brothers are the ones to call when fighting tigers. With Zhao Qing around, Zhao Ming took half as many hits. Having taken a beating alongside his big brother, Zhao Qing got a crispy, sugar-glazed rice stick. Totally worth it. The rest of this stuff is off limits. Nobody sneak any. We'll eat it when the guests come. Mom put the treats back in the cabinet again, and Zhao Qing stared with wide eyes, already starting to scheme. Zhao Ming saw it, but said nothing. He felt Zhao Qing would get another beating sooner or later. Arya, come here. Zhao Ming took a hair clip out of his pocket from the supply and marketing cooperative. 1 for you. 1 for Li Shixiang. You pick first, and after you pick, take the remaining 1 to her. Under the family's strange looks, Zhao Ming tried to cover it up. Li Shixiang has been brewing medicine for my dad. And bringing it over too. We can't just use her for nothing, right? Even Zhao Qing, his little brother, curled his lips at that excuse. Lu Tsuolan coughed. Mingzi, how much did you sell the wild boar for? Give it all to me. I'm afraid it will be put to use during the new year. For what? To find you a wife? You little brat. I can't give it all to you. There is also Dahu and Xiaohua's shares in it. Come on, hand it over. I will send their shares to their homes myself. Hunting is addictive. Or rather, at any time, being able to obtain high wealth that others cannot is addictive. Venturing into the deep woods to hunt wild game carried obvious dangers, but the rewards were equally substantial. With 10 days still to go before the construction corps organized the drive hunt, Zhao Ming and his 2 companions decided to make another trip into the mountains. Unlike the previous 2 trips, this time it was purely a gamble. The thick snow had long since frozen, and the ground was mostly covered in a hard crust. Only after entering the old forest did a layer of loose snow appear on the surface, crunching underfoot. The mountains in deep winter were silent, and the occasional strange bird call felt a little eerie. Various tracks crisscrossed the snow. Pheasant, snow hare, and leopard cat footprints were not few. The deeper they went, the more paw prints they saw. Finding prey required a hunter's keen eyes. Unfortunately, they didn't have a good hunting dog. If they had, tracking game would have been much easier. Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua still carried large baskets with their mountain supplies. Zhao Ming only carried a Type 56 semi-auto rifle, walking in stops and starts, occasionally crouching to examine the traces wild animals left on the snow. After a few days on the medicine, his father Zhao Qingji's condition had clearly improved. The quick results were thanks to Medicine Box's skill and the fact that medicinal herbs in these times were the genuine article. Not that the herbs of later generations were adulterated, but these days herbs were rarely cultivated. Most were purely wild, aged for years, and packed with potency. Yesterday, his mother Lu Tsuolan had asked Auntie, the wife of the eldest uncle, to sound out Medicine Box's family. Medicine Box had taken a great liking to Zhao Ming, and Li Shixiang, shy and bashful, didn't object either. The matter between the two was initially settled. Yawazi village had no professional matchmaker. Before long, Uncle Zhao Qingkai, who served as the production team leader, would lead Zhao Ming's parents on a formal visit, and the marriage could then be discussed. These days in the countryside, taking a wife was a big expense, but not as extravagant as in the city. In a few years, city folks would start demanding the 3 turns and 1 ring, a bicycle, a sewing machine, a wristwatch, and a radio. That stuff was what really broke a man. Ration coupons were hard to come by, and even money alone couldn't manage it. But having lived 2 lifetimes, Zhao Ming wasn't willing to do wrong by a good girl like Li Shixiang. In short, he had to prepare on the generous side. Don't be fooled by how professional Zhao Ming looked. He was actually just a half-baked amateur. In his previous life, he joined the forest ranger team, mainly fighting against illegal logging and poaching. At the end of the day, it was all about guarding against people. He'd taken part in a few organized hunts, sure, but that was nothing like patrolling and hunting in the mountains. The 3 of them spent a whole day in the forest and at most spotted a few pheasants and snow hares. Those little critters weren't meant for guns. One shot would blow them apart, leaving nothing worth keeping. They had to rely on traps. As soon as the sun went down, the temperature in the deep woods plummeted to some 30 or 40 degrees below zero. The snow den wasn't all that cold, but a day with no gains left the trio in low spirits. Those plum blossom footprints from the afternoon were probably a lynx. Lu Xiaohua had a grass stem clamped between his teeth, flipping bare-fat flatbreads roasting over the campfire. That thing could climb trees, and they'd followed it until it gave them the slip. Wild boars were better. Find one and drop it with a single shot. Tang Dahu kept dwelling on the fact that he hadn't drawn blood during the last boar hunt. This time in the mountains, he swore he would finally get a kill. Zhao Ming, by contrast, was much more level-headed. There's no rule that says every trip into the mountains has to bring back a kill, right? The last 2 times were so fruitful only because we knew where the prey was beforehand. With a gun in hand, it's only natural not to come back empty-handed. Still, they needed to find a few good hunting dogs. That was an old refrain. Everyone knew there was plenty of game in the mountains, but even with a gun, you still had to be able to find it. The 3 brothers muttered about it and spent the night in a snow shelter. At dawn, they continued deeper into the forest. The greater Xing'an range stretched on endlessly. Even after 2 straight days of walking, they were still only at the outskirts. The truly good stuff was all in the deepest parts. And of course, the danger increased exponentially. Zhao Ming knew he was only a half-baked hunter, and Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua were even greener. So he decided they'd go 1 more day deeper, and no matter whether they got anything or not, they wouldn't go any further. In fact, the outer areas of the greater Xing'an range had already been cleared several times. From the 1960s to the early 1970s, as logging camps kept being built, they had organized rounds of hunts, bringing in planes and heavy machine guns before finally driving those formidable beasts deeper into the mountain forest. It looked like a major mobilization, but in truth, they had simply run out of options. 10 years earlier, you had to carry a long stick when walking the roads, and if you were traveling with too few people, wolves would trail you from a distance. Every year, someone was carried off by a tiger or leopard, leaving everyone to live in constant dread. The plain fact was that the greater Xing'an Mountains had such a pristine natural environment, and with so little human activity, the wild game multiplied freely, so their numbers were naturally anything but small. At any time, people always came first, so large-scale, organized hunts emerged as a matter of course. Around 10 in the morning, Zhao Ming spotted traces of a silly roe deer. There were rub marks on the tree trunks too, probably left by a buck. The 3 brothers' spirits lifted at once, and they followed the hoofprints all the way. Unlike the snow crust in the clearings, which was frozen solid, the snow in the forest was loose and knee-deep, making the going exhausting, and they didn't dare make too much noise. Zhao Ming managed well enough, but Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua truly came to appreciate just how grueling mountain patrol hunting could be. After chasing them to a small creek, they finally caught sight of the herd. The creek bed had unusual terrain. The snow wasn't deep, and a foot-tall patch of small-leafed grass poked through. 8 roe deer were nibbling on the withered yellow leaves. These plants were full of sap and tender enough, a rare good meal after a snowfall. People often say silly roe deer, but roe deer actually aren't stupid. Led by a buck with forked antlers, the herd appeared to graze at ease, but in reality they kept lifting their heads to scan their surroundings. They were highly alert. Afraid of startling the deer, Zhao Ming had Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua set down the large baskets while still a long way off. Then, carrying their rifles, the 3 brothers got down, slowly pushed through the snow, and crawled forward. Even so, when they were roughly 50 meters from the creek, Zhao Ming didn't dare go any farther. Grazing wild animals had especially keen ears. The 3 took off their thick mittens and raised their rifles, each taking aim. The pair of chipmunk fur gloves Li Shixiang had made for Zhao Ming made Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua green with envy. For nearly stationary targets at a distance of around 50 meters, the hit rate was quite high for Tang Dahu and Lu Xiaohua, who had been drilling their aim hard these past few days. 3, 2, 1, fire. Bang, bang, bang. The 3 gunshots rang out almost as one. The lead buck took a bullet square in the head from Zhao Ming, and even one prong of its 3-point antlers was blasted clean off. Tang Dahu shot a doe through the neck, and she pitched over and dropped. He'd been aiming for the head as well. Lu Xiaohua, playing it safe, deliberately left a little margin when he drew his aim. His break-action rifle put a round through the chest cavity behind the neck of another doe. Whether the shot was clean or not could wait for later. Only those who actually bagged their quarry got to be picky. The remaining 5 roe deer instantly bounded away toward the woods across the gully. With how spry and nimble they looked, who would dare call them stupid? You two clean up here. I'm going to chase after them and see if I can catch one. Zhao Ming hefted his rifle and gave pursuit, plowing through the knee-deep snow.